You don't want to clench up your butt cheeks during the contraction. And I mean, that makes sense, right? We want our cervix to be opening. We want limp, we want loose, we want opening. And if you could imagine, holding those muscles in, that is not going to be great for allowing that body to open.
That was just one of the 8 tips that we're going to go through for managing labor pain and actually making the contractions more effective at doing the important work of opening your cervix. Now, this is a full guide for you today. It has been taken from the full childbirth course that can be found inside the Birth Toolbox community. At the end of the video, I'm going to share how you can get the handout that I talk about in this video, and you can use it to cheat off of it at your own labor.
I like to start with this image when we talk about dealing with labor. But contractions come on us almost like a wave. They are not a constant feeling, a constant pain, a constant discomfort. They are more like a wave where they come, they peak, and they recede. They come, they peak, and they recede. And they come at a steady time period, kind of like a wave. So I love this visual. And what I want for you is to really be able to ride the wave. So imagine if you are a surfer, you are riding the wave, right? You stay standing, you work with the wave, you even have fun. No, I'm not going to try to convince you labor is fun, but you can have some fun in labor, seriously. Okay. Imagine if this surfer, instead of getting on the surfboard and riding the wave, imagine if the surfer saw the wave coming and just stood in the sand close to that wave, as close as possible, as rigid as possible, just like a statue, and let the wave do its thing. Would that be as successful as the surfer that rides the wave? No. The surfer that stands like the statue is just going to be knocked right on their face, right? Going to have just a whole face full of sand. And that is not what I want from us in labor. I want to give you skills to be able to work with your contractions, to be able to allow them to work with your body, to allow them to open that cervix and push that baby down and do all the things that the body needs to do. And so that's why I am starting with the first tool in the toolbox, is something I call Limp and Loose in labor. Now, if you tell someone who didn't take this class, I just learned Limp and Loose in labor, they might not know what that means, because that's what I came up with for 8 different techniques to help us be limp and loose in labor. The other thing that I really pride myself in this class is that it's practical. I want you to have practical go-to methods. So that's what we're doing with Limp and Loose in labor. And in order for us to do that, I want to pull up one of the handouts from class called Limp and Loose in labor handout. I like to call them cheat sheets. So I totally recommend having these available for you to look at when you are in labor. So you don't have to keep it all in your head. I mean, there is no reason why you can't cheat in labor. I mean, none at all. So use these cheat sheets. Okay, so let me pull up the Limp and Loose in labor handout. Okay, here is our Limp and Loose in labor handout. Let's go through each of these. Now, as we go through these coping techniques, I recommend that you practice alongside me. It's going to feel so much better and more comfortable, and it's going to be much more effective if you practice these. And it's just going to feel like second nature when you practice them. So we'll have plenty of practice time. We'll have practice time today, and then we'll do it every single class. So let's talk about that first one, the jaw. Opening your jaw and letting your face hang. Wow, this is so powerful. Now, this is going to blow your mind, because I know it blew mine the first time I heard it, that the jaw, tension in the jaw, they have proven, okay, I'm not sure how, but they've proven that if you have a tense, clenched jaw, that your cervix is going to be tense and clenched. So of course we don't want that, right? Because we want our cervix to open that exit. So if you're somebody that holds tension in your jaw, make sure that this is a exercise that you practice. Tell your partner, hey, I'm somebody who holds tension in my jaw. Can you remind me to let my jaw hang? And really, it's just doing this. Slack jaw. I always say that it reminds me of my kids when they play a video game, or somebody when they don't realize they're making this face, right? So that open jaw, that's a great thing to do. Now that doesn't mean in labor that you have to stand around like that all day, but just kind of be aware of it. In between contractions, you might kind of open up your jaw, okay? The next one is to shake out your hands and arms. A lot of people clench their fists or hold tension in their fists, and just having a bit of a shakeout can kind of help loosen that. Again, we want to be limp and loose in labor. We want to allow that contraction, that wave of the contraction. We want to ride the wave. Loose jaw, loose hands and arms. The next one is one we love talking about in class, and that's horse lips. It's really just this, guys. Did you do it with me? Do it with me if you haven't done it. Ready? Now, you might do this. You might have found yourself doing this when you're exasperated at work, like, right? It's not the prettiest, but it really allows that tension to go, right? This is not a technique that you're going to want to use like for your 15-hour labor. This technique is used like if labor gets stronger really fast and you don't have anything to go to, or in that transition phase. Horse lips is just a great way to just let it all out. Just relax your face. Horse lips is a great one. The next one is resting your palms upward. Now, I like this one because I often see people in labor want to put their hands down like at their on the chair that they're in. Say if you're in a rocking chair, you're sitting on a chair, you're in the hospital room bed, and you want to just clench onto something and hold on. And all of that, it just causes tension all the way up here. And it is not that allowing limp and loose that we want to let that uterus do its work. Again, riding the wave. So just sitting with your hands up can be a great way to allow that upper body to relax. I remember I was working with this awesome family, and my client, she was on the rocking chair. And when a contraction came, she was rocking. Well, she was also putting her arms down and just like back and forth, just clenched up, rocking. And I noticed all of that tension. And she was also a CrossFit mom. So she was ripped, right? She had those awesome shoulders. Of the people that do CrossFit have those amazing shoulders. And, I could tell this was not that limp and loose allowing. That was really going to let her cervix and her uterus do its best work. And as a doula, I spotted that. And I said, in between the contractions, I said, for the next contraction, what I suggest is putting your hands face up. Allowing your hands faced up is going to loosen up your shoulders, your arms, and help us kind of ride that wave. And she was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that I was doing that. Thank you. Okay, face up. So the contraction came and she was like, okay, face up. And she's rocking. And then it got to the peak. And I saw her kind of go like this, like she wanted to turn her hands to grip. And then she was like, and after a couple, she really got into the rhythm of just the relaxing. So that face up can kind of trick you to, in a good way, to be more relaxed. Now, the next one, raise your hand if you're like me, that holds all of your tension in your shoulders. I am like this. This is my stressed tension, like working on the computer. If you are like that, then shoulders are really going to have to be one of those spots that you remember to relax, and remind your partners to look at your shoulders. And partners, quick hack, if you notice that shoulders are up like this, you might just, all you have to do is put a hand like this or two hands like that. Because when someone puts their hands on your shoulders and they're up high, it's like, it brings that awareness like, oh, I have my shoulders clenched. Okay. Ooh, great. So it is something that we want to be aware of. So if we just move them up and down, maybe even during a contraction, we're like, okay, we got this. Right. So the next one is another great hack for our partners out there, and that is to use some phrases that really draw attention and bring our mind to the fact that we want to be limp and loose in labor. So we can say limp and loose. We can say ragdoll. We can say boneless, like a boneless, chicken, right? Boneless, no bones. And I like these little phrases because partners, we don't want to do a ton of talking and chatting during labor. So we don't want to say, like, if we said, hey, I noticed that you're like, even that situation I just shared with my client, holding on. If she starts a contraction and I see her holding on, instead of saying, hey, remember you were going to put your hands up, you could just say, boneless, go boneless, limp and loose, limp and loose. And that's enough to be like, oh, that's right. So person in labor hears that and is like, oh, I remember what I learned from class. I remember what we talked about. I remember what I practiced. I need to be limp and loose. So having those little phrases, go-to phrases, can be just golden for partners during a contraction to just kind of get in really quick, give a little tip, and then allow them to get through that contraction. We don't want a lot of chit chat through contractions. One of my favorites. I say that a lot. Okay, but your bum. You don't want to clench up your butt cheeks during the contraction. And that makes sense, right? We want our cervix to be opening. We want limp. We want loose. We want opening. And if you can imagine, holding those muscles in, that is not going to be great for allowing that body to open. So the first time I added this to my list of things was when I was a newer doula. I remember working with this family and I was laboring with them at home. She went into the bathroom, had a couple contractions there. And when she came out, I said, well, how did that feel? How were they in the bathroom? And she said, it was pretty good. Before I went to the bathroom, when she was just standing like in front of her vanity mirror, she said a contraction came on and I just clenched my butt. And it felt so much better to just clench up my butt. And now I know that feels good. And I was like, no, time out, no clenching. It might feel good to add that pressure against the uterus opening. But no, we want open, we want limp, we want loose, we want no bum clenching. So it's a good thing, partners, you can just say, like, how's your bum? Nice loose bum, check in on it. Again, you're going to have this cheat sheet printed out or on your phone. You can even download it for your phone and just like do a quick look. You're at the hospital, you're in labor, you look through this and just go, okay, let me just remember what I need to do to remain limp and loose. Okay. Last strategy is just don't hesitate to just move your body, stretch, wiggle, shake it out. Sometimes if you're feeling lots of tension, you just have to like kind of move around, dance around. Again, this is a big day and don't hesitate to do things that might look a little funny. Horse lips, all of these things. This is your day and you want to do techniques to help you get to the baby and get that cervix nice and open. So limp and loose in labor. Again, this handout is available for you. Do not hesitate to use it to cheat. Okay, now is the time when I would love for us to do a practice. Remember, we learned how labor works. Now we added a tool to our toolbox. So our next step is to practice. So what I have done is I have just a little 30-second counter. And what we do is the screen will go dark for a second while I do the counter, and you'll see the 30 seconds. Now, 30 seconds is on the shorter side of contractions. When labor starts, it's not uncommon that you have contractions that are about 30 seconds. They will build up and gradually get longer and longer. So this is kind of a tiny little practice session. And here's what I'd like for you to do. Again, whether you are the person giving birth or supporting birth, I would like both of you to practice. And the reason for this is it's very supportive to the person laboring to see their team doing the same thing. You don't feel as self-conscious. You don't feel as awkward. It's just really excellent to have your whole team do that. Okay. So we're going to do the 30 seconds. And what I would like for you to do is choose maybe one or two of these different strategies and just kind of focus on them, right? So maybe it's putting your hands up, your jaw. You probably in 30 seconds could kind of run through each of these. And you can either do the 30 seconds with your eyes closed, where you're just listening to the music and thinking through these different strategies, or you could watch the timer. It doesn't matter, and you could change it up each day, trying it a little bit different. But this is somewhat of what a contraction would be like as far as our timing. Here we go. Okay, guys, we finished our first practice. Let me know how it went. Now, is that the only practice that you ever want to do? No, of course not. I would love for you to do practices like that on a regular basis. And of course, as we learn more techniques, we'll have more variety in order to practice.
And here is the easy way to get the Limp and Loose and Labor handout. So click the link and join the free Birth Toolbox community. So link down below and in the pinned comment. Now, once you're inside this community, just send me a direct message in the chat feature with the words Limp and Loose, and I will drop that right into the chat. You can download it as a PDF, or if you want, you can print it out and pop it in your hospital bag too. I know you're going to love this cheat sheet. It's going to be a huge advantage to remembering what you learned today. And I'll see you inside. Bye.